Very good afternoon, everybody. This is the second day of our presentation season for the semester 2 students. And today, these students are going to make presentations on European literature published during 1950 and 2000. Okay? So let me share a screen to have a display of the number of students, their names, and the topics on which they are going to make presentation in this slot. So we will have first Aamena reading a presentation on comparing Brave New World and 1984. Bhavna will read on totalitarianism in George Orwell's 1984. Dhruvita on an artist of the floating world, an unreliable narrator. Dhvani on comparative study of ancient and modern elegy. Divya will read paper on similar situation of war in 1st September 1939 and Russia-Ukraine war. Divya Sheta will read on narrative technique in Kazuo Ishiguro's novels. Emisha will make presentation on Sapir-Whorf's hypothesis in 1984 by George Orwell. Himanshi will make presentation on best artistic suicides by writers. Hinaba on the hidden message in September 1, 1939. And finally, Hirva will make on 1984 a dystopian novel. Okay? You all have submitted your presentations in Google Classroom, and you will be evaluated on various parameters in a given rubric that is in Google Classroom, wherein your subject knowledge, organization of your ideas, your verbal skills, the mechanics of writing, your eye contact, body language, enthusiasm, your citation and originality of arguments and thoughts, and the style of your documenting will be evaluated here. You all are also going to make peer and self evaluation of your performances. At the end of 5 days, we will see the chart of how you all have performed and how you are evaluated by your own classmates. So let us start the first presentation. We are also going live on YouTube, and I invite Aamena to start with the first presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected sir and my dear. Good afternoon, sir. Respected sir and my dear friends. My today's topic is comparing 1984 with Brave New World. This is my information. Contain writer's introduction, brief summary of both the novels and comparison between both the novels and conclusion. Writer's introduction. George Orwell was born on 25th June 1903 in Motihari, Bengal Presidency, British India. He mostly wrote on his work is characterized by lucid prose, social criticism, opposition to totalitarianism, and support of democratic socialism. He's well known for his novel Animal Farm and dystopian novel 1984, died on 21st January 1950. A summary of both the 1984 is based on it is a dystopian novel, and Vincent Smith is a low-ranking member party who is frustrated by omnipresent eyes of party, and the novel is about the futuristic society and world state. In this, most of things are connected with technology. A comparison between both the novels: totalitarianism and propaganda, identity and loyalty and technology. Totalitarianism and propaganda. Uh, in Brave New World, most of things are related uh, in Brave New World. The citizens are less controlled, and in 1984, the citizens are controlled through telescreens. Big Brother sees everything, and in this novel, Brave New World, everything is free, and whereas in 1984, everything is being controlled by the Big Brother. And the third difference in this is there is a propaganda in which 1984 there is a language of propaganda, and in Brave New World, there is no language of propaganda, and in Brave New World, there is free of. They can use drugs. They have sexual pleasures, while in the 1984, there is nothing like. There is always someone is seeing and focusing on them. The Big Brother always records everything what the person does. Identity and loyalty. The citizen loyal to authorities apply for both the novels. In 1984, the Big Brother sees everything, whereas in Brave New World, the state sees everything. But they are always connected with. They are always in control. They always control the people. In 1984, the children are raised by their parents, when in the Brave New World, the children are made from the technologies, and your lady couldn't be pregnant, and everything was done with the help of technologies. And there were the five castes: Delta, Gamma, and Alphas, and there were five castes, and everyone was divided by each other. That and technology. The reason of using technology are quite different in both the novels. In 1984, the monitor were used to record the people's that what are they doing, and in this, the technology is used for the scientific to create the babies. The government is not just keeping an eye on people like in 19, but they create a human in the way that are easier to control. In the Brave New World, they control everything with the help of technology, and even the babies were made out of technology. And in this 1984, everything was in the hand of Big Brother. Conclusion: in both the novels, the similarity is same. Everything is controlled under the same uh, person or government. Everyone wants to control their citizens. These are my sources, and thank you.
Road network. Road network. Who is going to ask? Hinaba. Okay. Yes. Just a minute.
Yes, Amina. I asked the question which type of differences you find in both novel?
No, no, post it. I will post. Yes, I mean, are you, which type of, which type of your views according, related to what you know?
According to me, both there are difference between both the novel, but in both the novels, the same motto is that all should be in control. Everything should be in control.
Today is my topic totalitarianism in George Orwell's 1984. This is my personal information about George Orwell. Eric Arthur Blair, known by his pen name George Orwell, born in India but moved back to England when he was 4 year old. He was an English novelist, journalist, and critic. Served in the World War II as a home guard in England. His works is characterized by lucid prose, social criticism, opposition to totalitarianism, and support of democratic socialism. He was also worked for the BBC Eastern Service from 1940s to 1943. He wrote 1984 in 1949. So, what is totalitarianism? Totalitarianism is a form of government that attempts to assert total control over the lives of the citizens. It is characterized by strong control rule that attempt to control and direct all aspects of individual life through coercions and repressions. It does not permit individual freedom. Traditional social institutions and organizations are discouraged and suppressed, uh, making people more willing to be merged into a single unified movement. Totalitarian states typically pursue a special goal to the exclusion of all others, with all resource directed towards its attainment, regardless of the cost. This totalitarianism, when Orwell in his 1984 totalitarianism denoted a society in which political power was in the hands of dictator or leaders and non-traditional ruling elite. The mass of the population was not only political powerless but deprived of all intellectual and cultural resources. In Nazi Germany, the citizens were overcoming a huge depression resulting from the loss in World War First. In the Soviet Union, the people overthrew an unproductive, uncaring terrorist government in 1984, when Orwell's 1948, when Orwell's 1984 was first published, World War II had just ended. During World War II, mass murderers were ordered by totalitarian leaders like Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin. A totalitarian government works to control the mind of the people. One way to induce sub-service surveillance is to control pleasure. The party controls people by limiting and suppressing pleasure. To remove the pleasure from society diminishes the moral of the people, allowing the government of enforce its will. Sex is a social activity looked down upon by party through organizations like the Junior Anti-Sex League. Totalitarianism is a tempting option for countries overcome with poverty. Orwell advises to the citizens of those countries to not select that path. Countries like Germany, Italy, and Russia have instilled a totalitarian government into their countries, causing deaths and many to loss of freedom. Difference between totalitarianism and authoritarianism. Both forms of government discourage individual freedom of thought and action. Totalitarian attempts to do this by asserting total control over the lives and of its citizens. whereas authoritarianism prefers the blind submission of its citizens to authority, while totalitarian states tend to a highly development guiding ideology. Authoritarian states usually do not. Totalitarian states suppress traditional social organizations, whereas authoritarian states will tolerate some social organizations based on traditional or special interest. Unlike totalitarian states or authoritarian states like the power to mobilize the entire population in pursuit of national goals, and any actions undertaken by the state are usually within relative predictable limits. And thank you. These are my resources.
Sir, I am asking question. I'm My question is, what was the main motive of totalitarianism?
The totalitarianism was the main motive of government and political power of.
How the concept of totalitarianism is reflected in 1984.
Yes, this totalitarianism is concept in reflected in 1984 as a thought crime uh, and
There is one more question asked by Hinaba, so that you can reply in the comment. Check the comments and then you can reply afterwards. In return, you give the answer. In the comment, type करें जवाब आपको Aamena, when you take this video presentation, still you are referring to not qualitative sources. You are not referring to qualitative sources. Sharing this screen. So, try to refer to qualitative resource when you are preparing for your presentations or assignment. None of this are None of these are qualitative. Hmm. Yeah, you can ask there. You ask there. Unmute and ask.
Sir, I have a question that if we are working on the topic which has few websites written on that topic, so how can we trust that
that it is that this website is good or not, because there is no other option, and we want to do research on that topic. So, what to do in that thing?
Okay, first of all, it is not possible that it may happen. You have to specifically tell me where you are facing that problem, because I don't think that will happen, that there is no qualitative work on any of the text that you are studying or any area that you work. That I don't agree, first of all. Many people ask me this question even while doing PhD also. But I say that no, perhaps you are not able to reach to the qualitative resources. Otherwise, it is not that there are no qualitative resources available on whatever you are trying to work. So if you can give me a point that on this you are working and not able to find, then I can search and tell you that here are the resources which can be referred. Only when you are working on like Indian literatures, then it may happen that qualitative resources are not found on internet. Only in Indian languages, perhaps there is a problem. But when it comes to English literature, there is no such dearth of resources available online. The only thing is that how to reach there. That is the major concern. Okay? So in case you have that concern, then specifically ask that what is that which you are trying to find and you are not able to find. Okay? Otherwise, you will always get that. Because that's why yesterday Mayuri is not in this group. In the other group, Mayuri was there, and I suggested here that very quickly, if I am looking, I am finding these 4 quality resources which you might have referred. That I told her. So we have to just sit and search. You have to do that work, and then you will be able to do that also in a significant way. A practice is required for that. Our objective for open internet online test is this also, that if you search for the answer online, you will come to know where are the qualitative resources. That also is our objective when we give open internet exam. But not many students go to internet to find answers, and so we don't know in a particular text what kind of resources are available, where they are available, because it is just a matter to sit and keep on searching, and then we realize that how the things are available. WebQuest is necessary. It's a pedagogical tool. Many teachers are working on that, struggling very hard to teach students how to search or how to Google, which for many, કોઈને એવું કહો તો એમ લાગે કે ઓહો ગૂગલિંગ કરતા તો અમને આવડે જ ને. પણ એ જ્યારે પાછા પ્રશ્ન લઈને આવે કે આના ઉપર ક્વોલિટી મટીરિયલ નથી, ત્યારે પાછું એ જ કહેવું પડે કે તમને ગૂગલિંગ કરતા નથી આવડતું. It means you don't know still there. So that you style scholar.google.com is a website where you find references to many such resources. JSTOR is there, scholar.google.com. If you search there, you will find scholarly articles on a particular area that you are trying to look for. Okay, so we are looking here to see this, that the resources here is not of a quality. Okay. Now again, I have to tell this because otherwise you think that my things were okay, then why marks are not given? Like Emisha was asking at the end of the day, why I didn't get. I told that you didn't get because this is a problem. But maybe at that time also.
Question was like there are last 2 rubrics, right? So research and research writing. So citation problem or citation evolution.
You unmute and ask there. So.
Species. Yeah. So exactly my question was that like there are 2 last rubrics named like research and research writing. So I have seen the last rubric. There are the that can be evaluation by the citation problem or citation issues. So last 2 second I was asking that in which parameters this our slides or our presentation can be evaluated. So it was like question, but it was my mistake that I couldn't ask like in particular form the question was.
Okay, so in the last two, if we see the rubric, let us see this, what exactly is given in the last two. Okay? Now see the citation plus originality. It says that excellent, if you want to be, then sources are exceptionally well integrated and they support claims argued in the paper very effectively. Now to do this, what you have to do? In the presentation, you have to time and again use the names of the critics, that according to so and so, something is there, or so and so critics have said something. So in text citation comes, whatever you are citing at the end, it is also coming within the slides also. If it doesn't come in the slide and only at the end you have given the list, you get 0 point there. We are giving 1 point, but normally you get 0 point for that. That is called exceptionally well integrated, and then you are arguing with those arguments. Still one step further you have to move on. Those who are getting 4 points, they also need to improvements. You have to counter argue those observations. What you have to do? Counter argue that so and so critic is saying this, and you with new evidence from the text is counter arguing, or from the source by another critic you are counter arguing also, or you are supporting that, but something you are doing with those sources. That is why it is there. Then number one, sources support some claims made in the paper but might not be integrated well. So somewhere it is written but integration is not there, it is not interwoven properly. So I think the word integration, effectively well integrated, might be making the point clear. If not, then again when we will discuss some of the articles, we will again come to here, but at that time you have to keep this folder open in your mind. You don't have to shut down the folder of rubric. Then again in the classroom we will refer. Let's see here, this critic is very well integrating these ideas from other people and then making his own stance clear. So when you make your point, you say Falana is saying this, Dikna is saying this, and by amalgamating all this thing, you are standing now something, or you are saying something there. Then you get full point. That is what is expected here. And final is alphabetical order and MLA citation, date, other things are properly or not. If you have written quotations properly and used here, then full points. Quotations and work cited conform to MLA style sheet. What paragraphs you have used. So if you use quotation, at the end of the quotation you have to make parenthesis. Parenthesis means bracket. In the bracket there is the last name, comma, the name of the work or page number or year, whatever way it is suitable. That is the in text quotation is cited, and then that very thing, from that last name I go to see alphabetically, is it there exactly, full citation. If I click the link, I am reaching to right place, you get full score. Otherwise you don't get full score here. Okay? So that is understanding of last two criteria there. So if you just give a link at the end and nothing in between in the citation, so no argument, then I give 1 point or 2 points, random points are given. But this is exactly what you understand by this rubric, and then you can work or make improvement accordingly on that. Okay?
Sir, I have one more question.
Yes, you can
So when we
unmute and ask.
unmuted.
Okay.
So when we doing intertexted citation, so we have to go to the downside, or we have to connect at the end of the our text. Like in we are right we are I used to write that in this slide, write a paragraph, and then in the downside, in right corner, at the right corner of this slide, we have to intertext like that, or we have to intertext citation like at end of the paragraph.
In text citation comes in the parenthesis, wherever the quotation mark is ending or wherever you have used that source, there it will come. in text citation. There it will come. There. And that is the full citation comes at the end. In text citation in parenthesis only last name, comma, either page number or year or name of work. It keeps on changing according to the condition, according to the things that you are there. It keeps on changing. But in text has only last name, and that is a marker. So if the last name is with G, I will go into the work citation with G. Then I will find that reference, and there it will be full detail will be given. So I will click to see there. So what is in text and at the end of the text? Two things. Both the things should be connected with each other. Both should be connected. Everybody is understanding this? In the next semester, you will have research methodology also, semester 4. There again, we will discuss all these things also. But if you practice, then we can take you to a higher level rather than only remaining in this. These are ABCDs of research. So if you want to move on, then these things are not very tough to understand. It's very easy thing in text and at the end of the text, how things are done. If you just read some of the research paper with that insight, you automatically also start getting some idea or sense about those things, that how the research writing is normally done. So that combination is necessary when you do in that. So this citations, Aamena, we were talking that lit chart, still you are referring to Wikipedia, you are referring to. So quality sources, you are not able to. Now 1984 and Brave New World, quite a good number of work is being done. Great many well-known critics have said and written on these two texts. So if you're not able to reach there, then it is still something which we need to work on. That the web skill or web quest skill, our Googling skills are still very low if we are not able to still reach there. And we have to identify the mistakes. Then only things may improve. Okay? Then you are comparing. Yes, when you are comparing, you refer to one source. This source you refer to. Okay? Now this again is a student's submission. Yes, you are seeing that. Just a minute. Let me. This is a student's submission. Yeah? Got it? And now, as we said that, well, in the workshop that we have done, remember what we were told very clearly, that you have to see who is the writer. Is that person a qualitative academician or not? Qualitative academician. Okay. Then, so if students' work you are referring to, it is still not up to the mark. So it is some kind of dissertation or some long essay submitted by the student who has put the things there. And you can see the sources are also not well cited. So even this work is very doubtful work. It has not worked very well. Do you see this? So it is not up to the mark. It is not qualitative work. So this again is very significant to be seen. That is why we ask that if you put what you are putting there, we can tell that, well, still things needs to be worked out in a better way than this, because we are worried, because last time we have seen the dissertation also were of not good quality, because all these things were happening. So what you do here, you do in dissertation. Though we tell you, but not many of you are maybe understanding or taking these things very seriously. Okay, so these things there, and then Bhavna, your reference also. Now I think you yourself can judge. ukessays.com title itself says that it is not a qualitative work. And Britannica is fine. Okay, chalo, Britannica. And then one is Wikipedia link from where again you can do. So what you are citing from UK essays, in the in-text we see absolutely nothing. Yes. Are you seeing this? In-text citation, there is nothing that according to Britannica, according to this, according to that, it should be like this. So that is what is expected when you want to score better marks in last two things. And you have to score. તમારે સ્કોર કરવો હોય તો એટલે કે મારે નથી કરવો સ્કોર કે નહીં આપતા માર્ક એવું નથી કરવાનું. આપણે નથી જોતા માર્ક્સ કે એમાં ભલે ઝીરો આવે કે શીખવાનું છે. That is what to be learned, that you should be curious to know and ask that why am I not getting score here, what should I do now to improve score here, and then you should be working. Now you are in second semester, then you will be in the third, અને થર્ડમાં આવી ભૂલ થશે તો વધુ આકરું થવું પડશે અમારે, અને ચોથામાં તો જરાય નહીં ચલાવી શકાય ફોર્થ સેમેસ્ટરમાં. So but every semester we have to grow, we have to improve from our performances. Okay, next. Yes, now
My screen is visible.
share that tab. Share this tab instead.
Yes. Hello everyone, myself Dhruvita Dhameliya. Today's my presentation is about an artist of the floating world, unreliable narrator. This is my information. This is the point which I want to ponder in this introduction of writer, definition of unreliable narrator, example of unreliable narrator, the remains of the day, the never let me go, an artist of the floating world, and conclusion. First of all, information of writer Kazuo Ishiguro. Kazuo Ishiguro was born in Japan, specifically the southern city of Nagasaki. When he turned 5 years old, his parents moved to UK and settled in Gulf Survey. British author Kazuo Ishiguro has won the 2017 Nobel Prize in Literature, and in doing so has scored a victory for speculative authors and worldwide. Ishiguro is certainly an author who has skillfully captured the conflict between two worlds, old and new, modern and traditional, young and old, female and male, Japanese and American, East and West, etc. Definition of unreliable narrator. According to 20th century literary critic Wayne Booth, who first coined the term unreliable narrator in 1961, rhetoric of fiction. A narrator is reliable when she or he act or speak in accordance with the norms of the work, which is to say that implied authors know, but unreliable when she or he does not. Reliable narrator is reliable when he or she talk about the work in a way the given. If he or she put her personal biases, then it's not become reliable. This, to a certain extent, assume that there are such understood norms which an author wishes to wish to convey, and by norms they refer to socially acceptable morals or such a like murdering is a crime. This kind of information they have to accept. But in this in work they are not accepting this work idea, then it's not become reliable. Narrator is a gushing forth of events, the mind of the individual. Sometimes it is the flourishing of events being explained with some strong interpretation in the beginning. It makes readers impossible to change their interpretation. In this kind of unreliable narrator, when they talk about the novel, at the end of the novel reader cannot understand what is said and what they want to tell in the novel. So it's become difficult for the reader rather than the narrator. Unreliable narrator. As many other contemporary British writer, Kazuo Ishiguro use of the literary device of the first person unreliable narrator in his novels. Applying this method result in what David Lloyd referred to as a gap between appearance and reality, between what narrator tells and what actually happened. In this kind of narrative, the narrator's version of the story gets into conflict with another version, which is not directly narrated. Ishiguro, who favors the first person viewpoint, is a master of unreliable narration. He used this kind of narration in his many novels. Here I want to discuss three novels of them. First is The Remains of the Day. In this novel, the narrator was Steve, who talk about his past experience and memory. But we cannot connect with what he say and what actually happened. So it's become difficult for the reader to understand that what is happening, because he is telling the thing in which he believed. So it's become difficult for the reader. Never Let Me Go. In this novel, there is a three character. The narrator was the Kathy, who told the story of his young day and when she was living in boarding. In this novel, she introduced herself like, my name is Kathy. I am 31 old. The action and character are presented entirely as a Kathy herself perceived them. And I realized that Ruth and others, whatever the boys choose to do, was pretty remote from us. The reader therefore only find out about events with only if Kathy herself remember that. If Kathy doesn't share anything, then reader cannot come to know what she want to say. So this kind of information become doubtful for the reader. Similarity between both the novels. The Remains of the Day is about identity of the narrator, who is confused about his identity and stuck between his memory and past. In another novel, Kathy was also confused between his identity. So this kind of similarity in both the novels. And Artist of the Floating World. In this, we know that Ono is the unreliable narrator, because he was not accept that he did crime, and for his crime war, people lost many things in the war. Ono is unreliable narrator, discussing his motive and spinning recollection of poetry himself more favorably. Although he denies making mistake, his true feelings slowly seep through, and the evolution of his character is expertly revealed by the reaction of his worried daughter. He is not directly telling us that what he was doing in past, but his daughter's uh, worry through his worry, we come to know that how it become problematic for the future of his own daughter. Conclusion: at the end of the novel, we can say the unreliable narrator, who is the suffering from the identity crisis, ignorance, poor insight, personal biases, mistake, dishonesty, this kind of quality we find the narrator, unreliable narrator, who suffer from this kind of. Thank you. These are my citations.
Okay. Uh, uh, what is similarity between the remain of the day and never let me go?
As I told in my presentation, that both the novel are talking about the identity of the narrator, who stuck between the past and his memory.
My question is, in all the three novels, sir, I'm typing. I'm asking again. If in all the three novels the narrator is unreliable, then according to you, what is that reliable? Why all are unreliable?
If narrator is talking about only his experience, he is not mention anyone, or there is another like two or three. If he discuss two or three people and talk with them, if he share only about his past experience, then it become unreliable. If there is two three other character who also agree with those narrator, then become it reliable, otherwise it unreliable.
My slides are visible. Yeah, so he disappeared in the dead of winters. The brooks were frozen, the airports almost deserted. By hearing the airport and statues, we might feel like it is the modern elegy. Yes, so it is by W.H. Auden, and it's in the memory of Yeats. So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dhvani Rajyaguru, and today I'm going to deal with comparative study of ancient Greek elegy versus modern Greek elegy, modern elegy. This is my personal information. So, before understanding the elegy, let's have the elegy and epic poem. According to M.H. Abrams and Cambridge Dictionary, what is the epitaph? A short piece of writing or a poem about a dead person, especially for one on the written on the gravestone of the dear one, or and the another is dirge. What is dirge? The dirge is all death. So it is longer than epitaph and shorter than elegy. It is also sometimes seems very similar to the epitaph, and it is Shakespeare's Full Fathom 5, Thy Father Lies, and William Collins, a song from Shakespeare, Cymbeline. And what is epic poem? Epic poem is long poem. It is long verse narrative on a serious subject, told in a formal or elevated style, and center or the heroic or quasi divine figure on which the actions depend on the fate of a tribe. So that is mostly of all the time it is long poem. And the epic poem. And now, what is did any poem written? It is mostly the hexameter or the pentameter lines, and this term originated in the Greek It is around the 7th century BC. Mime, Mimnerimus of Colophon began to use this form, the rhythm and form of elegiac verse for the other topics. In particular, with its inherent rhetoric quality, many Latin and Greek poets used this form. So the ancient Greek elegy was not actually given name of the elegy. It was used by the Ovid, Tibullus, Messala, Tiresias, Solon. So these were using it. It was not specifically for the dead person. It was for many. It has the wide aspect in the elegy. And in this first century, Ovid wrote a number of elegies about his exile, which he linked to a death. And Tibullus also written elegies, which were dedicated under time. The elegy was not that in fashion. After the fall of Roman Empire, the elegy fell out of a fashion. But instead of becoming lost, it found a new genre, a new poetic form in the modern time, especially Milton's Lycidas or John Donne's elegies. These are very famous in 16th century and 17th century. And this is also we can found in the book or Old English Exeter book, in which the number of formal elegies are given. The topics are given in that book, and this is give the name the elegies. There is a specific word used by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. He defines elegy as serious meditative poems. Use of elegy. What is the use of the elegy? It is a sorrowful term, can be considered as elegy, mostly about the dead, as I told you before, and many times is not about the dead. In the Greek time, it was for the cheering the people who were going to fight in the battle, and is now it is specifically about loss, and many intentionally use for the first person pronoun I. Elegies are mostly written in the first person narrator, because somebody is talking about his friend, the person who is written, the author or poet writing elegy is dedicating somebody, so the feelings are connected with it. So always elegies are in written in first person, and so that's why it's not focusing on the many people, but rather than larger issue, it's only affecting the specific person or very small group of number. Now, the difference between ancient elegy and the modern elegy. In ancient time, before 606, the language was Old English. Elegy, for example, elegies were written for these things, and the authors, the poets, the tirades and solos who wrote this for the social gathering character. Mimnermus was famous for elegies celebrating the pleasures of love and youth. And now, in the modern elegies, the elegies are only written for the serious reflection, the dead person, or the one mourning the loss of someone who died. The another thing, the difference is the form. Ancient Greeks were following forms very strictly, and the original form used by the Greek was defined short syllabus, and this was the structure of ancient Greek elegies. And in the modern time, the contemporary poets uses not they are not using the specific form, or they are not strict for the forms. For example, Whitman in Van Lilke's Last in the Dooryard Bloomed uses the free verse. Another example is Tennyson's In Memoriam of A.H.H. This is about his friend Arthur Henry Hallam. In this elegy, he is using the iambic tetrameter, and he organized this in the cantos. So the form was strict in the Greek elegy, and the modern Asian poets are using many kind of forms in the elegy. I have taken one example of the ancient Greek elegy. This is poem written in the Greek, and the translation is given here. So now this elegy is in the beginning of the Euripides. This is known as the Andromache. It was first produced sometime between the 5th century BC. And in this elegy, we are about to see the Andromache, who is singing the song for expression of her sorrow, of her misfortunes, what happened and why she has written this elegy. Because her husband Hector has been killed, and this beautiful princess Andromache is writing this poetry, the sorrowful poetry for him, and she is also expressing her fate of becoming the slave of evil princess Hermione. And I have taken the example of modern elegy. This is on death of late famous general, and in this we can see that it is having the satirical comical approach in the poem. And this poem, Jonathan Swift writes that his grace impossible what dead of old age too, and his bed. And this poem's meaning is the death of a late famous general. It is ironically described the life and the death of dishonorable, recently that is deceased duke, and the poem begins with the speaker, and it is on the grief over the death of John Churchill. There are many famous examples also in the ancient Greek elegy as well as in the modern Greek elegies. And one beautiful example is this of the modern ancient Greek elegy. And this says that it is about the death of beloved person. It is written for the person who is drawn in the sea, and how beautifully the writer describes the things that the death of beloved drowned in the sea, just as the lungs of drowned man are swollen with the salt water of the sea that has drowned them. The sea has swollen the lungs of the person, and also it is describing the feelings, the self expression of a man. It is the poem is poem 13 of Archilochus, and yeah, another poetries are the Archile elegy, which are having many part in this elegy. So this is the poem which I have described, and the famous modern elegies. As I told, Milton's Lycidas is one of the best elegy in the 18th century. Another is When Lilies Last in the Dorian Bloom, On My First Son by Ben Jonson, and Adonisis by P.V. Shelley. So these are the modern elegies, and a couple of 20th century contenders of note are Auden's tribute to his country, his contemporary in memory of W.B. Yeats. So which we are studying. So these are the modern elegies. These are my references. Thank you.
So, what is the central difference between ancient elegy and modern elegy? What is the central difference between ancient elegy and modern elegy? What is similarity between modern elegy and Greek elegy?
Similarity is many of the elegies. Obviously, modern elegy.
Yeah, so the similarity between them, as I told you, the theme of the ancient Greek elegies were for the youth, or for the cherishing the love of lover, but it was also for the dead person. So modern elegies are for that mourning of the sorrow, and the ancient elegies also for that.
Let me give this. So in this slides, as we're talking about in-text citations and other things. So And the last one by Dhvani. She has put references here, though it is not correct way of putting. That is at the corner of the slides, things are given. So the right way is parenthesis. You have to use parenthesis to put those things there. And but as still people are learning, so we are allowing this. As you all are learning, so it is okay. But this is not the right way. Otherwise, right now I am giving score. So you may think that, well, this is the correct way. So it is given score because others are not doing that also. So once everybody will start doing that, then the parameter will become little bit strict. So you may think that in last semester I was getting score, now I am not getting the score, because it is still not perfectly right. But as others are still not doing, so you are getting score. So in here, if you say that, in one slide here, you have used according to M.H. Abrahams, then it is right. According to so and so or so and so argues there this, and the same way here, W.P. Trent, but the same thing you have to say. What are the arguments made by him to describe Greek elegy? So that sentence structure is very important to be put if you want to write in a proper way. Is this page reflected? Which page you are seeing? Not this one. I'm sharing the page. This page I am sharing. Okay? This page. Okay. So W.P. Trent Jester. This. So because it is not given by everybody, so it is okay. But that is not the right way to put the things there.
I have a question. If he has not given the person who I am writing, I'm instructing the person who has not given the specific definition, but only he has written something, and I am taking idea of that research paper. So should I write according to him, or it's okay not to mention him?
Okay, so you can also say that, for example, this you are writing here. Okay? So you are writing about the history of ancient Greek elegy. So you have to start in that way. That if we try to look at the historically, if we try to look at the Greek elegy, then let us see what W.P. Trent has to say. W.P. Trent in this article, in this year, published in this work, has said that elegy is this. This should be your sentence structure. So you are making that point clear, that what you want to say and what somebody has said. So you are borrowing ideas from somebody to say what is the Greek elegy. And ideally what you might have done, you might have seen 10 people talking about Greek elegy. From that 10, one you found is more suitable to your argument. All 10 have said correct things. They may not say the same thing also. But something that you are trying to see or argue with the reference to your elegies that you are studying, what is suitable that you are selecting. So what you will learn that there are no general truths. All truths are relative. You are using that particular thing to prove something. તમારે કંઈક સાબિત કરવું છે એટલે તમે એ કઈ વસ્તુનો ઉપયોગ કરો છો. એની સામે આર્ગ્યુમેન્ટ હોય જ. એ પૂર્ણ સત્ય બની જતું નથી. આ વસ્તુ મને ખબર નહીં કઈ રીતે તમારા સુધી પહોંચે છે કે નથી પહોંચતી, સમજાય કે નથી સમજાતી. I don't know that how do you understand this. પણ કોઈ પણ બાબતને તમારે જે રીતે સાબિત કરવી એમ તમે કરી શકો. જે રીતે તમારે જે બાબત, એના માટે તમારે આર્ગ્યુમેન્ટ્સ ભેગી કરવી પડે. એટલે તમે 10 લોકો એન્શિયન્ટ ગ્રીક એલેજી ઉપર વાત કરતા હોય એની હિસ્ટ્રી ને એમાંથી તમને ડબલ્યુપી ટ્રેન્ટની બહુ યોગ્ય લાગી, કારણ કે તમારે કોઈ એક વસ્તુ સાબિત કરવી છે અને એના માટે તમને આનો વ્યૂ પોઈન્ટ સારો લાગે છે. એટલા માટે તમારા મનમાં બરાબર ખબર છે કે આની કાઉન્ટર આર્ગ્યુમેન્ટ આ રીતે થઈ શકે, આ રીતે તમે જોવ તો મારી વાત ખોટી પણ પડે, એ તમને ખબર છે અને તમે એની પાસે પાળ બાંધતા બાંધતા લખતા હો છો કે આ રીતે કોઈ આવે તો તમે એને એક રીત કે ના બરાબર છે કે એ રીતે મારી આર્ગ્યુમેન્ટ તૂટી શકે. You are well aware when you are making this argument. So that way you are moving with the help of standing on somebody's shoulder, knowing it very well કે આ જ આર્ગ્યુમેન્ટ આ રીતે જુઓ તો એ ખોટી પણ પડી શકે, તો એને તમારે પાળ બાંધતી જવી પડે લખવામાં. અને બરાબર આપણને ખબર હોય આપણે જે કહીએ છીએ એ આ રીતે ખોટું પડે, એટલે જ્યારે કોઈ કાઉન્ટર આર્ગ્યુમેન્ટ કરે ત્યારે આપણને ખ્યાલ આવી જાય કે યસ, ફ્રોમ ધેટ એંગલ એ વાત સાચી છે, એમાં મારે દુઃખી થવાની જરૂર નથી, મારા સેન્ટિમેન્ટ્સ ખોટા હર્ટ કરવાની જરૂર નથી, એની વાત એ સાચી છે, એનો મને અહેસાસ આવી જાય. એટલે પછી આપણે નોર્મલ ડે લાઈફમાં આનો ઉપયોગ કરીએ ત્યારે આપણે દુઃખી ન થઈ જઈએ, આપણને ખ્યાલ આવી જાય કે હા એમ પણ જોઈ શકાય છે આ વસ્તુ. So we are getting ready for that situations in life while writing a research article. તો આ પ્રક્રિયા છે આખી આગળ માનવ ઘડતરની, એ રીતે આગળ વધતા હોય. પણ મોટેભાગે આપણે શું હોય કે હું જે દ્રષ્ટિથી એ જ સાચી દ્રષ્ટિ છે. હવે આમાં આ કામ કરતા કરતા આપણે શીખવાનું કે એવું નથી હોતું ક્યારેય, અનેક દ્રષ્ટિકોણો હોય છે, પણ તમારે એક રીતે જોવું છે એટલે તમે એને એક રીતે સાબિત કરી શકો, પણ એનો મતલબ એમ નહીં કે બીજી કોઈ રીત એ વસ્તુને જોવાની નથી. સો દેટ વે યુ મૂવ ઓન ઇફ યુ આર્ગ્યુ. સો દેટ ઇઝ હાઉ યુ આર, એટલે એ રીતે તમે આર્ગ્યુમેન્ટ એના ઉપર આધારિત કરો છો, એવું હું સમજુ છું. હવે અત્યારે કદાચ તમે ન સમજતા હો તો હવે તમને સમજણ આવે કે આ રીતે લોકો જોતા હોય આપણે જે આર્ગ્યુમેન્ટ કરીએ એ બધી બાબતોને. Then corner sense be, okay, you have written at the end, but that is how you have to use okay, what you want to say, what corner sense be is telling, and you are talking about that. એટલે અકોર્ડિંગ ટુ એક રીત છે, એટલે અકોર્ડિંગ ટુ જ લખવું જરૂરી નથી. આઈ એમ ગિવિંગ એન એક્ઝામ્પલ કે અકોર્ડિંગ એટલે તમે એને શબ્દો બદલી શકો, with reference to so and so, or as said by so and so, as argued by so and so, as referred in this article. એ બધું એની સાથે આવતા લિંગ્વિસ્ટિક માર્કર્સ છે, અને આપણે ટૂંકમાં કહીએ કે અકોર્ડિંગ ટુ એટલે પછી સમજાઈ જાય કે ઓકે યુ આર ટોકિંગ અબાઉટ લિંગ્વિસ્ટિક માર્કર્સ, કે જેમાં તમે કોઈના રેફરન્સથી વાત કરવા મૂકો છો અને એના તમને 10-15 લિંગ્વિસ્ટિક માર્કર્સ મળી જતા હોય છે. યુ ગેટ 10 to 15 લિંગ્વિસ્ટિક માર્કર્સ ટુ સે, અને અકોર્ડિંગ ટુ જ ઉપયોગ કરવું જરૂરી નથી. અતિશય રિપીટ એટલે તમારે બદલવું પડે, અકોર્ડિંગ ટુ વિથ રેફરન્સ ટુ ધીસ, એઝ સેડ બાય સો એન્ડ સો, as mentioned by so and so in that article. એ અલગ અલગ રીતે તમે એ વાતને મૂકવાની રહે. આ પણ શીખવું હોય તમે ખાલી ગૂગલ સર્ચ કરો, તમને આ બધા જ ગ્રામર લેસન પણ મળી જશે નેટ ઉપરથી. યુ વિલ ઇઝીલી ફાઇન્ડ લિંગ્વિસ્ટિક માર્કર્સ ફોર કનેક્ટર્સ જેને કહેવાય, હાઉ ટુ મેક યુઝ ઓફ કનેક્ટર્સ એન્ડ અધર કાઇન્ડ્સ ઓફ થિંગ. Again, there is internet to teach you or guide you. That this way you can use variety of connectors to make your arguments. Okay, so that was there. Okay, so this is right now it's okay, but you need to improve from here in some references. Just a minute. So gestor reference is good. So that is qualitative work that is cited. Gestor. Okay. Shodh Ganga also you have cited. Punjab University one thesis is cited. Okay. Oxford reference is there. Okay. Britannica is there. Okay. Abraham's glossary also is cited. Okay. Okay, fine. So, reasonably, you can say qualitative sources are cited instead of just study material sites. That is what you can see. The other students also So you also get an example that qualitative resources, what is expected when I say that don't cite this but do this. So this example also everybody can get from this. Okay, yes, now you can start. Ha, yes, it is visible now.
Myself, Divya, Parmar, and today I am going to present similarity between 1st September 1939 poem by Rangwala and Russia-Ukraine war, similarity between these situations. So, this is my information. There is one quote: "If we don't end war, war will end us." It is quoted by Dhameliya.
It is visible in full screen. So it is there is a quote. If we don't end war, war will end us. It is by A.H. Wallen, and this is points which I cover in presentation. Introduction of poem, about poet, about the World War II, about Russia and Ukraine war, numbers of the death in both wars, similarities between both situations, conclusion and citation. So the writer of the poem, 1st September 1939, written by W.H. Auden. The full name of poet is Winston Hugh Auden. He was born on 21st February 1907 and died on 29th September 1973. He has a citizenship of he was born at Britain, so he has a citizenship of British and American. So you can read detail about poet by click here. About the poem 1st September 1939. Uh, the poet is W.H. Auden. It was published 18 October 1939, exactly a month after when a Second World War started. Uh, it is published in a new public republic issue in book form of Auden's collection, The Another Time in 1940. Setting: the Second World War. To read original poem, you can click here, and also I have a click here the explanation of the poem. About the poem, I have not covered the wall summary or wall explanation of the poem because I want to compare both poems. So I have taken main points to explain. It is divided into 9 stanza. Poem starts in World War II. The setting of the poem is World War II. So in the starting, we know we by read we come to know that Germany has attack on Poland. Germany not denying to pay money, or we can say that he denying to treaty of Versailles. Uh, at that time, the social environment, or we can say that the condition of people is full of fear and anger. uh, we, war effect on psychology of human. uh, the poet also talked about Martin Luther and Hitler. Poet also talked about the birthplace of Hitler. Uh, Poet indirectly says that visit to the birthplace of Hitler, maybe something happened to him. That's why he became this kind of a ruler, or uh, also here we can connect the point that Hitler was a uh, he was he was following the idea of Martin Luther's. At the end of life of Martin Luther, he became something like anti-Semitic type of. Martin Luther is a political leader or huh, political leader. So he talked about that things, and maybe Hitler follows him. That's why maybe he doing such kind of things. Also, in poem we can see that the propaganda medium, the news of war spreading through the medium of radio and newspapers. Also, there is a things about neutral countries. So in also poem in direct indirectly said that America is neutral from first. It is not part of World War First. After that, it is not also part of World War Second. But later on, America also joins the war because of Japan. And we can connect that, we can see that in a Russia Ukraine war also, America choose the way to be neutral. About World War II, the World War II start on 1st September 1939, and it's end on 2nd September 1945. Exactly 6 year and 1 day it is going on. Uh, Cause Hitler's invention of Poland in September 1939 drive a Great Britain and France to declare war on Germany, marking the beginning of World War II. On September 1st, 1939, Hitler invaded Poland from west. 2 days later, France and Britain declared war on Germany, beginning of the World War II. The participants of the World War II is Allies and Axis, the both two groups of different countries. In Allies, France, Great Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union and China are participated by a group of allies. And from Axis group, the Germany, Italy, and Japan. About Russia and Ukraine war. The Russia and Ukraine wars started from 20 February 2014, and in nowadays we can see that it is ongoing war status. It is ongoing. Russia began its invasion of Ukraine on 24 February 2020. To read today's update about Russia and Ukraine war, you can click here and visit that news. Number of deaths in Russia and Ukraine war. Uh, we cannot conclude that a death number of death because it is or going on war. Similarities between both situations. In World War II, we can see that the Treaty of Versailles, after World War First, a Treaty of Versailles signed by country and Germany, it is declared that Germany have to pay money for damaging all those things. In poem, we find that Germany has denied to pay charges, or we can say that they denied a Treaty of Versailles, and Hitler's army attacked on the Poland. In Russia and Ukraine issue, we can see that there is a one agreement which is signed, Minsk agreement. According to Minsk agreement, Russia cannot do this type of attack on Ukraine. In Minsk agreement, there are first of all, Russia is a very big big place, and the smaller countries are dividing in it. So according to Minsk agreement, Russia cannot attack directly upon that places. But in nowadays, Putin has denied that Minsk agreement. He gives order to attack on Ukraine. We can see that millions of death causes cause of World War II, and means in Russia and Ukraine war also the thousands of deaths happening, and also the war is going on. So how many deaths will be happen? We don't know. Conclusion. Thus, to conclude, we can say that war brings so many problems, whether it is about social, economical, psychological, or etc. We have to think about the result of war, and we have to stop war. This is my citation, and thank you.
I'm asking question. Divya, my question is, what kind of life incidents of Hitler are
Come in the center. You are asking questions, come in the center. For a while, the other can shake you aside.
yeah? So my question is, what kind of life incidents of Hitler are written by Auden in this poem?
Yes, we can connect that point. Auden wrote about Hitler's childhood and birthplace of him, and when we read history, we can connect that point. Hitler was inspired by Martin Luther, and Luther's idea is about anti-Semitic, to hate Jews and all those things. So we can connect that point with Hitler's life.
What kind of idea Martin Luther has followed?
I have read about him that he was a political leader, and at the end of his life, he gives a idea of his thinking becoming a type of anti-Semitic, and he was following that idea to hatred Jews and to be rude to them, and all those things are there.
Ready. There. So, see, in this topic, Divya Parmar, that you have made, it's a very interesting topic. But uh, what you should do ideally is to go by the lines of the poem, that what the poet is telling, and then you compare with it. How are those lines uh, telling us some kind of truths about today? If Ukraine Russia dispute can be the beginning of Third World War, then how those lines written on 1st September 1939 tell us something about today? So you have to read some lines and you have to say. So the very first beginning he is doing about neutrality of America. He's sitting in America in a bar, kind of a pub, and he is thinking about the neutral nations, and in that how this neutrality is what he is questioning, is damaging. So are there today countries or nations which has taken the stance of neutrality? Can that be true in this context or not? And from there, a lot many other things are connected. So how many things you find worth connecting with today's situation? That is very important to see here. Okay, yes, next one.
Is it visible? So, my topic is narrative technique in selected novels by Kazuo Ishiguro. I selected three novels by Kazuo Ishiguro. A Pale View of His, published in 1982. An Artist of the Floating World, 1986, and The Remains of the Day, 1989. A pale view of his. Before I'm going to this topic, as Kazuo Ishiguro mentioned in An Artist of the Floating World, that through the character of Zero, perhaps that I was mistaken. That in here in this presentation, I also took a mistake that I forgot to mention forgot to cite one research paper by Masayuki Nakao. He researched on the memory, narrative, and authenticity in Kazuo Ishiguro's pale view of his. He mentioned that there are two different time levels in narrative, two different time levels in this particular novel, that narrative present and narrative past. In this novel, Itsuko, who is a female protagonist in narrative present, is set in England in the earlier 1918s. During the time after Itsuko learns the news of Keiko's suicide, her first daughter, and then Nikki, her younger daughter of her second British husband, comes to visit on a mission to reassure that Itsuko is not responsible for Keiko's death. So, in this novel, we come to know that there is also the bridge of present and past. An artist of the floating world, that we can see in this novel, that rivers and foreshadowing are there, that Matsuzo Ono, time again and again, he back to his memory, and further he sudden come to in the present, and previous conversation also, when he go in the past, that he recall all conversation, and actually we really don't know that that conversation is reliable or not. And memory lapses or uncertainty, because of that past memory, that we can say that the uncertainty suddenly flows through that recalling of his past incidents. The remains of the day, that in this novel, the voice of Stevenson, as my colleague Dhruvita also present this topic, that the voice of Stevenson, who is a butler, and whose memories provides the novel's text. The entire book is his account of the past and present. Again, in this novel, past and present is presented by Ishiguro, which gives the reader a distinct impression of his character. What I found similarities between these three novels, that first person narration. In first novel, that Itsuko, who is a woman protagonist, first person narrator, Matsuzo Ono, who is male protagonist of first person narrator, and in a pale in third novel, Stevenson also a first person narrator. Here we can say that Ishiguro is successfully present either woman or man as a first person narrator. That bridge of past and present, that I earlier told, uncertainty is also there in his narrative technique. This is my word citation, and thank you.
I'm asking. Yes, Divya, you have compared that. I have typings.
The question. Okay? And then later on, if you want to edit, then while you are asking, you can edit also. It's not that you have to exactly read only that. You can edit that, but that work can be done. So what we are expecting that your question gets reflected when you are asking that feature that StreamYard is giving, and we are trying to use that feature to see that. That's why we are expecting you to do this. Yes, Divya, no, you are ready now. Yes, unmute and ask your question.
Yes. What is your views upon that narrative technique which past and present you have mentioned in your presentation, which
As a reader, we can connect easily or not.
Definitely, as a reader, as a first time reader, we cannot connect easily with we cannot familiar with the story in every story. We can't in the first sight we not familiar with the story. But after after past the events, after past the incident by writer, who writer gives, then we come to know that no, this is the story, this is the line. But Ishiguro, Ishiguro's technique of present the past in present and present the present in also that way. This is unique style to keep the reader within the story. So this is a very unique narrative technique that in today's time that we know that Ishiguro is a very popular Japanese writer. That it's very unique narrative technique. So I think this is very beautifully or a very unique style that he gives.
Just a minute. Let it come on the full screen. Then
So my question is, uh, you told about the past narrative and present narrative. So how it is described in the other two novels by Ishiguro? For example, in the Floating World, the the story starts from protagonist present things, and then past present things, and then he goes to the past and reveal all the things. So this kind of things which are
In other two novels, a pale view of his by in the on that novel, Itsuko, who is female protagonist, she go in the past and reveal that her daughter why her daughter came to come to suicide on that. So in this novel, that her regrets are also present
through the past that he recalls. And other novel also that Stevens, who is butler of the particular place, and he also struggling between that his identity, as Dhruvita said, that
Are you able to see the screen there? There is one more question by one YouTube listener. Mr. Shabir has asked this question. Can you read that? So you'll see this, that what people will expect is that how deep are you going in the theories when you talk about anything? Can you see that? So that is what people will ask you generally, that you're talking about narrative technique, then theories of structuralism. Any structuralists is cited by you when you talk about narrative techniques. So that is what we are telling, that seminal writers, whichever area you pick up, then there will be seminal writers. And how do you talk about those seminal, right? Without that, everything will be incomplete. We may think that I have done hard work, I have done this and that, but well, it is all meaningless. All hard work is meaningless. Like, you do lots of hard work and make Facebook photograph and this, and then you cover the board. Somebody comes and tells all is meaningless. Where is literature? So that is the gap, small gap, but it makes a huge difference. Somehow I'm feeling that you're not getting that gap. That is what time and again we tell, that is the sense that we have to develop. How the world is looking at our work, what they expect. આપણે મહેનત તો ખૂબ કરીએ તો એ મહેનત ગધાવેરો થઈ જાય, પેલી સ્માર્ટનેસ નથી આવતી, and you are told time and again, but still how to make you understand that આટલી જગ્યા છે ખાલી, એ ભરાશે તો જ બધું કામ દેખાશે, નહીતર એ બધું જ ઝીરો બની જતા વાર ન લાગે. And that is what is very important there. So go into seminal writers. Start with the basic books like glossary, what is given about narrative technique, what are people referred according to this all people, and then you establish your thing. If you are referring to qualitative work, they all might have done this. કોઈ પણ આર્ટિકલ તમે રિફર કરતા હો અને જો એ ક્વોલિટેટિવ કામ હશે તો એમણે શરૂઆતના ફકરામાં જ આ બધા સાઇટેશન મૂક્યા હશે અને વાત કરી હશે. એ તમે જોયા પણ હશે, પણ જેમ પેલી દ્રષ્ટિ ન ખુલી હોય એટલે દેખાતું નથી હોતું. આપણે દ્રષ્ટિ ખોલવાની છે તો એ બધું દેખાવાની શરૂઆત થઈ જશે.
So can I start? Yes, thank you. So I am Emisha Ravani, and today this is the presentation day of the paper number 107, and I am dealing with the concept of Sapir-Whorf's hypothesis in 1984 novel written by George Orwell. I would like to start my presentation with the Benjamin Le-Whorf's quote. The world is presented in a kaleidoscopic flux of impressions which has to be organized in our minds, and this means largely by the linguistic systems in our minds. So here this concept of Sapir-Whorf's hypothesis is concentrate on the kaleidoscopic flux. Kaleidoscopic flux is something which is they wanted to know that how the thing is structured in our mind, how we have adopted the particular patterns, the shapes and structure in our mind.
So these are my information. And when we see this theory of Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, these are the factors which are working in this theory, like language, geography, thoughts, culture, folk tradition, literature, religious practices, and architecture. When we go to the theory or history of this theory, we can find that in the 19th century of the thinkers, there were the two thinkers who first think or first express this theory, uh, and then in the American anthropology area, there were the two members, the Boas and Edward Sapir. They expressed this theory in around 19th century, uh, and then they were talking about this particular theory. Uh, Benjamin Worf is a student of Edward Sapir, and then he went in the deep his teacher's theory. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is focusing on linguistic basis of this theory, that how is semantic structure is working, the theory of linguistic relativity, linguistic determinism, and Whorfian hypothesis and Whorfianism. These are the names of this theory people are using time and again. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis was thought in courses through the earlier 1970s and had become widely accepted as truth. But then it fell out of favor by the 1990s. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis was left for dead. Authors Steven Pinker wrote The Cognitive Revolution in Psychology, which made the study of pure thought possible, and a number of studies showing major effect of language on concepts appeared to kill the concept in the 1990s. As I said, that in late 18th century thinkers has came already to this theory, but when the Sapir get existed this theory in the 19th century, and but recently it has been resurrected, and neo-Whorfianism is now an active research topic in psycholinguistics. Psycholinguistic is a term that psychological process that make it possible for humans to master and use language. Psycholinguistic conduct research on speech development and language development, and how individuals of all ages comprehend the produce language. And we have seen in the novel that it is we can say that it is very special, the role of language played by George Orwell in this novel 1984, that how psycholinguistic factor is working in the novel, and to we can get this by this factor the theory has applied in this novel. Here I put the view or the thought of the Sapir. Human beings do not live in the objective world alone, nor alone in the world of social activity or ordinarily understood, but are very much at the mercy of the particular language which has become the medium of expression of their society. So Sapir goes with the idea of that we, as a human being, we are not able to live in the society without language, and the Worf is going in same path, but little bit he was going with the some another aspect rather than social aspect. It is quite an illusion to imagine that one adjusts to reality essentially without the use of language, and that language is merely an incidental means of solving specific problems of communication or reflection. So he is saying like that we if language is not there, we cannot communicate or we cannot solve our specific problems related to language. We cannot solve without the language. So he has put the language aspect of language as very majorly played a role. The fact of the matter is that the real world is to a large extent unconsciously built upon the language habits of the group. No two languages are ever sufficiently similar to be considered as representing the same social reality. The worlds in which different societies are live distinct worlds, not merely the same world with different levels attached. We see and hear the existence very largely as we do because the language habits of our community predispose certain choices of interpretation. This theory mainly goes with the idea of how two languages existed, and how the concept and the conflict of two languages is happen. That's what Sapir is telling. And now it is the thought of war. We decide nature along lines laid down by our native languages. The categories and types that we isolate from the world of phenomena we do not find there because they stare every observer in the face. On the contrary, the world is presented in a kaleidoscopic flux of impressions which has to be organized in our minds, and this means largely by the linguistic system in our minds. So whenever a person is examined by the incidents, examined by the various kind of things whichever happened to that person, that things or that incidents can be examined by the language linguistic system which the person has used. And here I want to add something is that semantic how the semantic factor is playing the role. That here the semantic psychology, the study of how meaning is stored in the mind. That when psychologically we want to know the person is how the thing or the incident stored in the particular that person minds. So it is like a very vital role in this theory of semantic psychology, largely because we are parties to an agreement to organize it in this way, an agreement that holds throughout our speech community and is codified in the patterns of our language. Like in kaleidoscope we see that there are two lines and so many colors, so many shapes, very complexity is there. So in the same way, the flux is happen in our mind, and that's called kaleidoscopic flux. The agreement is, of course, the implicit and unstated one, but its terms are absolutely obligatory. We cannot talk at all except by subscribing to the organization and classification of data with the agreement degrees. There are the situations are not static in our mind, like kaleidoscopic situation cannot stuck in one situation. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis consists of two associated principles, that is linguistic determinism and linguistic relativity. There are so many other core of this theory, but I have taken these both as novel has thrown the light upon these two aspects. That linguistic determinism, language may determine our thinking patterns, the way we view and think about the world. Linguistic determinism is called strong determinism. When we compare both the principles to each other, we think that linguistic determinism is strong than linguistic relativity. What is linguistic relativity? The less similar the language is, more diverse the conceptualization of the world. Different languages view the world differently. So determinism is something how our perspective to the look at the world, and how we think by that perspective to look at the world. So these are, I have taken original lines from the novel that which can reflect the, we can study this by the using this theory particular. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. This is in chapter 1 of novel. So how it contradicting and how it leave the impact in our mind when we read that war is peace, freedom is slavery. It is very going in the paradoxical way. And then another is who controls the past, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past. So this is the how party was wanted, how party wanted to rule in the that particular country, and how the propaganda of linguistic they use. In the end the party would announce that 2 and 2 made 5, and you would have to believe it. It was inevitable that they should make that claim sooner or later. The logic of that position demanded it, not merely the validity of experience, but the very existence of external reality was tacitly denied by their philosophy. Another one I have taken is that, and when memory failed, the written records were falsified. How the Ministry of Truth was working, we can say that they used the when they give a title to ministry, they use the factor of linguistic, and whenever we see that title, they work very contradictorily, and the title is seemed in a very nice way. It is entirely illogical. For instance, the Ministry of Peace is in charge of waging war, the Ministry of Love is in charge of political torture, and the Ministry of Truth is in charge of doctoring history books to reflect the party's ideology. This I have said before it. So, there are other original quotes I have taken. Don't you see that the world aim of newspeak is to narrow the range of thought. This quote, this sentence, when we see the O'Brien talks to our narrator, and then he uses this kind of language or this kind of linguistic pattern to convince him. If they could make me stop loving you, that would be the real betrayal. She thought it ever. They can't do that. They can make you say anything, but they can't make you believe it. They can't get inside you. This is the dialogue from the Julia is telling to the our narrator, and how they were a strong static position in their mind of whatever they want to do or whatever they think. But at the end of the novel, we see that everything gets changed. And perhaps you might pretend afterwards that it was only a trick, that you just said it to make them stop and didn't really mean it. But that isn't true. At the time when it happens, you do mean it. You think there is no other way of saving yourself. You are quite ready to save yourself that way. You want it to happen to the other person. You don't give a damn what they suffer. You all care about is yourself. We watch in the movie that when they came to the 101 room, and political parties were very torturing, very in a very cruel way, both of them, and how they were speaking them by themselves, very changed idea. We do not destroy the heretic because we resist us. He resists us. We convert him. We capture his inner mind. We reshape him. This is O'Brien's dialogue when the narrator get out of the 101, and how party was convincing him to believe whatever party is saying. So this is my work cited.
Okay, Emisha, you have mentioned in your presentation the factors of hypothesis. What could be the how can you connect the geography as the factor of hypothesis?
Yes, there are so many factors which are working in this theory. Geography is working like how the country or the particular place is where situated, and geography is playing role because when we see that various places or various countries, various regions, we see that linguistic depend on this geography as in what place they have situated in this geography.
Anisha, my question is how SHP connect with 1984? The concept that we
Yeah, the answer can be my whole presentation because I have connected this 1984 to Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. In short, I can say that 1984, George Orwell has portrayed this world entire people's mind, people's psychology, and how the language they have used. And by that language, if we want to study, then this theory can be help us very a lot. So, like in that way, these both are connected. And yes, geography. One more thing I want to add it that. Ge- uh, depend on geography because language are we have seen in Gujarati બાર ગાવે બોલી બદલાય તો like language are different, but the use of language, the use of psycholinguistics are major play in this theory.
There are two questions. Mr. Sabir is listening YouTube live stream, so he has asked these two questions. So, in case if you are ready to answer,
Yes, this theory actually declined in 1990s. I have read this, and because there were there, sir, I don't remember the particular thing, but I can answer.
and then there is another question also that also is reflected online.
Okay, I want to jump out to the another answer because I'm not find it ever. Do you think Sapir-Whorf hypothesis would stand true in case of multilingual cultures? Say, for example, India. Yes, multilinguality in India, because this theory is focusing in the aspect of two languages, like we say that Gujarati or English. But the main focus is I have taken for this particular novel is this how the use of linguistic and how they've thrown the light to the psycholinguistic particular term in this novel.
So, by that time, let me just have a feedback on the last two presentations. Okay. You just keep open your presentation. Yeah, this one was by Divya Parmar. Yes, Divya, are you seeing this? So I was trying to look at this website, but this website is not opening. Biography.com, WH Auden. Okay. Are you able, just a minute. This site. Okay. So this also need to be verified when you put it, whether the site is working or not. So again, check and let me know whether that site is working or not. It is showing that let me open this. It says this, that this content is not available in your area. This is what I am seeing. So that raises the doubt whether you have really referred to that source or not, or is it like here only it is not available, another network it is available. We are right now connected with university network, so is it restricted to this? So that is one. Now that is why you see in website resource they always give two dates, the date of publication and the date on which it is accessed. Remember, everybody, this is for everybody. Date of access, so on which day you are accessing internet resource, that also is mentioned. So you can say that on the day when I have seen it was available, then it is not available, and it keeps on changing. Internet resources keeps on changing, so many times it happens that somebody has changed it. So you can say the date on which you accessed the information was available, then it is not available there. That is what you can see there. It is opening there. So share the link in WhatsApp to see that why it is not opening here. This error it gives. So maybe because of the restricted network, is it banned or something? We have to see. Okay. Okay, share in the WhatsApp, so I will check it out whether it works in the mobile device or not. Another one, this Auden is the writer of the poem, so it will go with alphabetical order. Auden poetry. Is that clear? That is simple thing. The writer, his name will obviously comes there. And then newspaper, how to cite newspaper. Now you have to ask this to MLA handbook or to internet, that how to cite newspaper, and then learn from that. How to cite newspaper. You can only give a link reference for live update of war. Okay? But you have to say that what way you have to cite. What is there any method or not for citing newspaper? Okay? So that you have to learn in this. Okay, then in the last one, also it was a good topic. This was very interesting topic. Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, linguistic hypothesis, and it's a good, very interesting idea, which comes with linguistic determinism and linguistic relativity. So it's a good concept to study language. Whenever we study language, one can look at this idea. And now when you cite this, anybody might be curious to know that where exactly Sapir and Whorf published their ideas first. That can be the first curiosity, originally where they might have done. So you try to see a source and try to read, and then you find some source like this. So Whorf, Benjamin Lee, 1956, 1940, Science and Linguistics in Language, Thought and Reality, which is published by Cambridge, MIT, original publication in Technology Review. So that is exactly from where perhaps Whorf's idea is coming. And then Sapir Edward, yes, 1921, Language, New York, Hardcourt Press. And then 1951, it might be republished, The Status of Linguistics as a Science. A very interesting, University of California Press. That is where it is coming, and that is to be cited, because that is the original source of this idea, of this hypothesis. So you have to reach there, and then you have to see the things there, and you will come to know that, like University of California, their journals are of good quality, and even this also. MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and how science and technology looks at language. Study of language is, as we discussed earlier, is scientific. It is more of a science than of an arts. Study of language is more of a science than of an arts. We refer to this in Northrop Frye's essay also, where he is taking comparison, or is making comparison between science and arts, and he says that how the study of language is the study is a scientific study. It is a discipline of science, and both these writers, Whorf and Sapir, also is supporting this idea, the status of linguistics as science, and Whorf, science and linguistics. So this makes your argument stronger when you try to argue about the scientific nature of language.
Like, if you want to study linguistics, you have to study first neuroscience.
Neuroscience also, that becomes a, yeah, yes, very basic. There you have to study. So psychology is more scientific, and even for a teacher, studying child psychology is necessary. So that's a topic in B.Ed also, when you have to deal with children in school, not in PG, KG. So don't get that idea of KG in PG. So that difference always you have to keep in mind. KG is KG and PG is PG. So we have to deal with, like, KG students with PG student also, but that child psychology for the students, that is necessary even for teachers also. And this reference also was good about this, but I don't know how you have referred to that, the psycholinguistic idea.
I have just
Here there is a link of Science Direct here.
psycholinguistic and hyperlinguistic.
Huh. But what exactly from there, that is not getting clear. So you come to the website psycholinguistic. This is a good resource, sciencedirect.com. This again is a good site. So in case you are noting down good resources on internet somewhere, and when you are again googling and coming to this website Science Direct, you can rely on this as a very authentic source. Time and again we keep on giving you what is authentic source in our discussion and other things. Now it depends upon you whether you are grabbing all those things or not. Otherwise again you will go to Spark Notes and Wikipedia only. And you may again say also to somebody that we are never taught where is good resource, or how to go to good resource. That also you may perhaps say very readily, because in the another group we are not talking about this. So other group may think that we are never told this, and that's why we expect that you should do dialogue with the other groups, and this dialogue is about this, not about the other things. કોણ કેવું દેખાય છે ને કોણે કેવા કપડા પહેર્યા છે ને કોણ આવું કર્યું ને કોણે તેવું કર્યું ને ઓલો ને ઓલી ને એના કરતા આ આઈડિયાઝની ચર્ચા થઈ હતી તમારા ગ્રુપમાં, તો એ શું હતા એ ચર્ચા થઈ શકે. તો બંને ગ્રુપ જુદા કામ કરે છે, પણ બંનેને મળી શકે સારી બાબતો. પણ એ તો બ્રિજ પહેલા તો બનાવવો પડે આવા વાર્તાલાપનો. આપસમાં તો મોટે ભાગે ઠઠ્ઠા મસ્કરી કરવાના બ્રિજીસ બનેલા હોય, એટલે ભેગા થાય ત્યારે આપણે ઠઠ્ઠા મસ્કરી એ વહેલા ચડી જઈએ એકેડેમિક વાત કરવા કરતા. જે પણ એ પણ હું કહું છું, તમે એવા અવાજો સાંભળ્યા હશે, એવું કરતા તમે, એટલે હું કહું છું. Then you get involved with yourself in free time, what you might be doing rather than academic discussion. Then it happens, a healthy academic environment. To bridge that, lots of work is required, and then automatically our quality starts improving also. Okay, next one.
So first,
Unmute your mic here.
so first let me share my slide. Is it visible in full screen? Now it is. Now it is visible. Just. Now is it? Now it is visible. Okay. Done. So today I'm going to discuss about the best artistic suicides, and mainly for this topic, I have choose five writers about whom I'm going to discuss. The points I have to ponder is the five main writers, and the another one is suicide rates in various countries and uh, various age groups. Then the another thing is social norms behind the suicide and psychological norms behind the suicide. Then conclusion. So the first writer I have choose is Virginia Woolf. Um, Virginia Woolf was uh, I would like to start discussing with his one quote that against you I will flying myself unvanquished and unyielding, O death. So this sentence show his deep desire towards the death, and Wolf was as we see that she was wear a coat the full of fur and filled its pocket with the stones and drowned himself into the river Ouse, and at the on March 28, 1941. And the main reasons behind it is very much artistic way of making suicide. The reasons behind her suicide, I was found is she was physically abused when she was 6 years old. From that to 23 years, she was constantly abused by his brothers. So that thing make he's mentally ill. Then the another thing is depression and mental illness. uh, Her mother's death and this abusement are lead her towards the mental illness and depression. The another is her homosexual relationship with Vita Sackville. As we see that the broken relationship with Vita Sackville are reason behind her mental illness, which lead her towards the suicide. Nazism. She is belong from the Jew family, like her husband was Jew. So at that time, the Nazis are overpowering all of that places, and she is constantly suffering from that trauma, mental trauma. Then the society, as she sentenced that lock up your libraries if you like, but there is no gate, no lock, no bolt that you can set upon the freedom of my mind. we see that at that time she was fighting for the girls who are not allowed to go to university. So that fighting make her against towards society, and that tension he has in her mind, and she was that thing lead her towards the suicide. That argument I have made from these newspaper cuttings and her handwritten suicide note, which I have mentioned, I have put here. The another one is Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway's death is very much interesting. Is also very much interesting. Like as we see, Hemingway shot himself, but after his death, his wife told that he was not killed himself, but he was mistakenly shoot himself while he was cleaning the weapon. So that thing is there. Mm. And his wife, fourth wife of him, wrote in the newspaper, the New York Times of that time. She wrote that Mr. Hemingway accidentally killed himself while cleaning a gun this morning at 7:30 a.m. No time has been set for the funeral service, which will be private. So this sentence directly reference that how he is died very uniquely. And the unique thing here is, not only he was died because of by shooting himself, but his father also died at same way. This newspaper clips are also uh, talking about the points I have discussed. The another one is Sylvia Plath. Sylvia Plath committed suicide at 11 February 1963, London. She was uh, she was also when she was died. Before that, also she tried to commit suicide, but she failed. At one point of time, she was seen his lover with some other girl walking in the university campus, and she get jealous and she tried to skip, or she tried to commit suicide but saved, and then later on she committed suicide. And his suicide is also very unique, like she sticking her head in the oven in London home on February 11, 63, and died. And by the reasons of her suicide is love, like she get jealous of that, I have told. Extreme workload, as her parents told to the newspaper that our daughter died because of the extreme workload of university. That newspaper I have put in the next slide. Then the mental instability or because of the workload, and she also rejected by her work was also rejected by many publishers. So that thing is also there in her mind, and which is caused the mental trauma in her, and then lead her towards the death. This is the that newspaper I have put. And the another one is Sergei Yasmin. He was died at 28 December 1925 at age of 13 because of high alcoholism and depression. And he wrote he before he died, he wrote one poem in his own blood, and then hang himself into um, and died. And the last one is Anne Seston. She was also suffering from the depression from the most of her time, most of the time in her life. And also she died because of like we can say shelf, and because of the extreme level of extreme breathing carbon monoxide, she was died. So that how she committed suicide. Here I put charts of suicide rates. Like first chart is all about like how people choose to commit suicide, like by fire, poisoning, suffocation, and other. The another chart is of the country-wise male and female suicide rates, and the last one is age-wise suicide rates. And I want to discuss the social norms behind the suicide in reference of that five writers I have choose. Like social environment around the person cause mental illness and that lead them toward the suicide. As we see uh, in the reference of Virginia Woolf, that she was highly tortured by the society, which caused his suicide. Then another one is ritual and culture and sheeple environment. Like people are believing in one thing. If you are believing in the different thing than them, then that is problematic for society, and that torture you have to suffer or you have to commit suicide. That you have just two ways. And so if that torture are also, if we see suffering, Virginia Woolf is suffering from that, the lack of ability to deal with society. That thing is also there, that if we don't have that capacity to fight with the society or to deal with the society, then we have to suffer. In one journal, Health Communication, sentence of Downs and Estenberg are mentioned that the relatively low level of public stigma about those who use mental health service to shift perceived social norms and promote more positive attitude about treatment uses, which is also relevant with that. Then another one is psychological reasons behind the suicide. Behind each suicide, an attempt is long term of struggle, a mental struggle that is there. As we see, like Ernest Hemingway was also suffering from the high tension, hypertension, and he was taking therapies. Also, Virginia Woolf is the same way suffering. Then the another three writers are also suffering from the same term, the mental illness. So that thing is there. The another is suicide is the major health problem and leading cause of death worldwide. That is the truth in not only this in the reference of this writer, but it is also in the normal human beings. Like that suicide are the major problem, and the suicide are mainly caused by the mental disease or mental instability. Then if we have some horrible and painful experience, according to psychology, that is lead the long time horrible and painful experience are lead us towards the suicide. As we see that the another one writer I have mentioned here, this Sylvia Path is also have long term mental stress, and the ancestor is also suffered from the long time sufferings. So that thing is and because of that they are lead towards the suicide. Long time stress and extreme level of tension is also there, and these all terms are I have taken in reference of a journal titled Editorial, the Psychology of Suicide from Research Understanding to Intervention and Treatment. If you want to read that journal, you can click and read. Thank you. This is my resources and citations.
Yes. So, by the time we believe that literature is a great way to express oneself, then why writers choose to suicide or kill themselves by the special this act of suicide? And do childhood memories playing a role in the act of suicide? And another question I have typed, but due to network issue, uh, it's not posted. For the act of suicide, which is more strong aspect, as you have mentioned, the psychological aspect and social aspect. So if the person is going to attempt the suicide, then the which is the strong aspect is playing a role, social or psychological. And if you are choosing one of them, then how the person is can stop that act. Like if you are telling psychological, then it is strong. Then how the person is relate to that special aspect.
Okay, so I'm giving first your second question's answer. I'm giving first that if the person choose the death, then the sociological or psychological two aspects are there. But I think the psychological aspects are more general because the society is there. So society are not going to change it. It is as it is, but how the person looking at them, that is also a psychological perspective, that how he or she is going to look the society, how it is he or she taking it positively or negatively. So I think if they choose positive aspect, then they don't commit suicide. And if they're not choosing the positive aspect or choosing negative aspect, or looking the society in very in depressive way, then the psychological aspect, so it is all about the psychological aspect to, and can you repeat your first question, please?
Yes, I have asked firstly is that literature is a great way to express oneself. Then why writers choose to do suicide, and do childhood memories playing role in the act of suicide?
In if we see that I have mentioned in my slide that Sylvia Plath is not accepted. Her writings are not accepted by these publishers. Why it is not accepting? Because there is something. She wrote something which is against to the mentality of the society or the publisher. So sometimes it is happened that literature is the best way to express their emotions, but what happens that literature is also not accepted by the society, that is create such kind of mess in the writers, and that lead towards them depression and suicide. And the childhood memory, yes, of course, childhood memory is also playing, as we have one novel, Pamela, that is also about the childhood memory. And here in the case of Virginia Woolf, it is also about the childhood memory, like she is abused at the age of 6 to 23, and that thing live with her throughout her life. So it is not possible, you can forget that for a while, for some time, but some in between your life, chapter of your life, it is recalling, it is emerging itself. You are not able to forgot it fully.
Yes, Himanshi, my question is, can we discuss Camus' concept of suicide in your topic? And my second question during your answering to Emisha, that you said that taking positively or negatively, but what about freedom? That your topic is the suicide of the great artist. That, but if we talk about for the concept of Camus' philosophy of suicide, that there is freedom is centralized. So how can you say that?
Okay, you are talking about freedom of suicide, or which kind of freedom you are talking
Okay,
about?
my question is that can we discuss Camus' concept of suicide in your book? This.
Okay, so Camus is talking about the freedom of freedom in the human being, or we can say like that freedom of human being. So that concept I want to apply in this, that they no human being have right to committed suicide, or that the human being is not free as much to make suicide, or even to kill himself. But writers are doing that. or not only writers or human being are doing that because of the high depression, or the sometimes the situation are not in their hand, they are out of control. Then they don't have they have no capacity to think that this is right, I have this right, or I don't have that freedom, I have this, or I have don't. They just make an action. So that thing is in the center, that when your depression or some depression, or we can say mental illness, are go out of the boundaries, then the things are not in your hand.
I'm sharing my screen. Visible? It's visible now? Yes. Hello everyone, I am Hinaba Sarvaiya, and I'm today deal with the hidden message in the September 1st, 1939, the poem by the W.H. Holden. This is my information and introductions. The September 1st, 1939 poem written by the W.H. Auden, published in the collection Author Time. This poem, the 1939, also the years, what happened this year. The Second World Wars began there, and also the W.H. Auden, the also the refers the date of the German invention of the Poland, and which precipitated the war. And here the Odin used the codified language to conceal the underlying the theme of lack of acceptance of homosexuality in this society. And these poems also he used the metaphors of the light and the dark, and the impulses of the historical figures and government to show the offense done to the homosexuals. And here's I am deal with the details by the author, and how to related a hidden message in the September 1st, 1939 poems. And first, the details of the author. The Auden was born in England 1907 and had two older brothers. And Auden families moved around the country for the various reasons, typical the reason of her father work. And he was a very brilliant and scholar student, and he sent the 8 years old, he sent the school of Edmund boarding school. And after he receiving the scholarship, and he go to the Oxford, and going to the study in the natural science. And this is the turn this is the turn of the poet life. This is a turning of the poet life. And Auden seems to have a feeling to fellow undergraduate men, and that the feelings had gone unexpected. And while at college, he tried to develop the homosexual traits, and through such a thing is the psychologist and the celibacy. And Auden began a process of self-examinations that allowed him to understand his sexual nature. And now the title of the poem, 1st September 1939, That's a very similar the time of the Odin meet his friend, and at that time the same years he wrote this poem, and he uses the historical events of the war and platform to state his own personal philosophy. And here the which type of metaphor used in this poem in the reflect that in this the he Odin create a metaphor of light and the darkness. In this meaning behind of the metaphor, the term of intolerance of the homosexuality, interpretations in the light, and light represent those who are accepting in the embrace homosexual lifestyle, and dark is also represent the who are not the acceptance of the homosexuals. And this line of the poem, waves of anger and fears circulate over the bright and darkened lands of the earth. Here he expressed the feeling of fear and represent the feeling that people felt towards the nations of the homosexual, because being openly gay, and that time the society that the time the society are not accepting the concept of this. And Hodden continues the use of the metaphor of the light and darkness in this poem. And another line, the light must never go out. Here he trying to express the idea that is love is lost and human are doomed in the perspective of war. But here in the personal life, he also the say the respect between human, and while homosexual interpretations take the idea that if we do not learn to love and tolerate one another, we are doomed. And the here he also the to put the historical references to support his perspectives. He used the first major reference, the mention of this poem in the first reference of the Martin Luther. And Odin claimed that the scholarship can unearth the wall offense from Luther until now. Here we find the parallels, the religion's ideology that Hitler shared with the Martin Luther's, and both are the anti-Semitism, but also both are against the homosexuality. And another reference we find that we see the Odin make is the Nenjiski and Degilev. The line speak of what is truth of normal heart, and the Nenjiski was the reference of Nenjiski was the belly dancer, and the Degilev was owner of the bar. And also Negil Dejilev was also like to the Nenjiski, but Nenjiski is married to Roland, another woman, and and the both are the also reference here. The Odin used the reference of the homosexuality, but in this concept of the Nenjiski and Degilev, and which the concept of the word Odin used the reference to emphasize the idea that people seek isolated and avoid the love for another and confrontations. And Odin include the reference because Nejiski and Degilev were homosexual, and subject Odin used a Nenjinsky to speak in love. And conclusions, the Odins also the represent the personal life and in the connections through the reference connections, the language and reference with his poem, and give to evidence in deeper meaning. We read this poem, not find that in any reference, but you read and it depends that you realize this poem also to connected his personal life. And thank you, and this is my work citation.
So Hinaba, my question is, you in your slide mentioned that Auden used metaphor of light and dark. So in which context he used that metaphors?
Here we find the light and darkness, and also I will connect the hidden message in through the poems. And also the light means the that concept this time that time the society are not accepted the homosexuality, and he also the represent the light that the also the accepted the these things, and another dark represent the not accepted the things of the this thing.
Uh, Himanshi, you have asked for light and dark. So in your poem September 1st, 1939, uh, when we see the words according to the situation of war. So before war, there is a light, there is a enlightenment, progress, and all those things. But the situation of a war took the world or the people to the darkest side of this war and all those things. So in poem that is also symbolized light and dark in this book. Yes, my question is that you have said while you were presenting that at that time people were not accepting homosexuality or that particular concept of sexuality, or people were not discussing. So, in what basis you are arguing that in that time people were not accepting or discussing?
It means the our time is acceptance and no time.
No, no. You have told that at that time people were not accepting homosexuality, heterosexuality, right? So in what basis you are telling that at that time, have you have you any argument which can tell that okay, that at that time people were not discussing or people were not accepting this kind of issues, or which is referring sexual issues?
Yes, it are really interesting questions, and I will the connect the poets, the Odins are he also the I just deal with the hidden message in this poem, and he not openly say about, and also we read this poem and define the meaning, the how it take the references, the like the so in this dark and in the Nejigan's sky, and it's also the and the Hitlers, and also both are the against the homosexuality things, and also the audience are not directly to take the reference in in this poem, but and also that that's
Okay, so by the time the last one gets ready, feedback to the last two one. Okay, so just keep your slides open. Okay, when I tell you, you share it. Himanshi has worked quite well on this topic, and good resources from newspaper cuttings and other things were given to support the argument there. Okay. Uh, One more thing, like you have to connect this with which aspect, like in with which text are you connecting this? In Waiting for Godot.
In Waiting for Godot, you once mentioned that this, there are many artistic suicides are there in literature. So one who want to research on that or want to make presentation on that, then you can. So I choose that topic.
Yes, so but that you have to connect. Like it is, it should not come out of anything. There's a long discourse on suicide, and then there are many writers also who committed it.
Yes, sir.
So the very narrative you have to fix into some tragic. Like what do you want to see in suicide, philosophically, psychologically, socially, and how these examples are supporting your trajectory. That is very important. So if you see that there are two characters who are attempting to commit suicide but are not able to do, and then there are these writers who are able to do so, what way are you trying to read this Vladimir Estragon and all these writers? So Vladimir Estragon are afraid of committing suicide. Then can you say that this all writers are having kind of a daring or fearlessness? But that doesn't prove psychology and their letters, and they said that they were frustrated, they were tired, they are quitting in one or the another way. So how can that be considered as a brave act? Also becomes a question. So those things can be debated. Yeah, those all things can be debated in the discussion. Yeah. So these are this example that they have done, but how do you use them? That is, again we come to that point that okay, these are the events, but what do you want to do with that? What argument you want to make? Whatever you want to, you can make. Whatever you want to say, you can say about this, but it depends upon you to make argument on all these evidences. We have one research scholar doing PhD also on this topic, on suicides in literature. On that one PhD work is also going on. Okay, so next one. Yes. Yes, now you can share your screen. Okay. That mail is not open. Email mail was open. Is the mail open or not? Not open. Let us see. So we keep the mail open in the side. These pages that you are opening, it will create more on this. So it's another page to the writer. So presentation to that level. Pages are open at the top. This is done. Still not. Still. Still, you are not here. Make full screen and then come and share here.
Yes.
Share from
So it is visible. Visible. So, screen. Yes. Open with Google Slide. Full screen. Hmm. Now it's visible. Visible. Okay. Sir, visible. Okay. So myself, Hirva Pandya, I am dealing with the topic 1984 as a dystopian novel by George Orwell. This is my personal information. Meaning of dystopian. Meaning is dystopian is something bad place, bad image in world or bad society which is going which incident is happen is a bad incident and people lead dehumanizing and fearful lives. Characteristics of dystopian fiction. Government control. Government plays a big role in dystopian literature. Generally, there is either no government or no oppressive ruling body. We can see that in George Orwell 1984, the world is under the control of government. The fictional dictator Big Brother enforces omnipresent surveillance over the people living in the three intercontinental superstates remaining after World War. Technological control. Advanced science and technology. Technological control means we are seen in the movie that is the TV screen is visible and that TV screen is controlled one or other way on the people. This is environmental disaster. Dystopian novels are often set in places that are inhabitable, have been destroyed, or are preparing for destruction. Survival. The oppressive powers and destruction in dystopian worlds often leave the inhabitants to fend for themselves. Loss of individualism. How should the needs of the society as a whole compare to individual needs? Many dystopian feature despite the dangers of conformity. Here is the second example of a dystopian novel, that Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, written in 1953, follows a fireman whose job is to burn books. Because of the censorship of books, this future society has increased interest in technology and entertainment, and an inability to think freely and creatively. 1984 as a dystopian novel. Government control in 1984. In the novel, genre is a dystopian novel. It must deals with the characteristics of government control, as we saw that there is a people controlled by government. The scene of the 2 minutes head. It describes that people of Oceania are controlled by the government or leader, the big brother. Here is the I video attach the video that there is 2 minutes head video, and it is shown that how the people are controlled by the government. Technological control in the novel, it is seen that people of Oceania are controlled by the technology. Like on television screen, continues the pictures used of a big brother the controls the people. Because of this, people get fear that big brother is watching us, and as they realize it they control themselves. So by this way, technological control is shown in the novel. Here is a I attached the video where the lady is give instruction in a television, and Winston to do so. Environmental disaster. Basically, most of the dystopian novels are deals with the characteristics which in the place in which all the settings are done is destroyed. At last, the same kind situation has happened in the Oceania is destroyed, as well as the life of Julia and Winston are also become dangerous. Survival. Every human has a desire to find meaning their life. In the novel 1984, the party attempts eliminate any such desire. However, about midway novel, it seems that Winston and Julia decide in order to survive, this desire must be fulfilled. Loss of individualism. In 1984, there is idea of loss of individualism. The loss of individualism is the idea. We can got this idea got through uh, the diary, which is written by Winston. The diary is hiding by Winston because they to thinking something about the nation or against the nation is a thought crime, and because of that thought crime, Winston and Julia are arrested by the end of the novel. Conclusion. So to sum up the novel, we get the idea. The novel is basically focused on all of the characteristics of dystopian fiction, and that's why it's known as a dystopian novel of 20th century literature. These are my citations. Thank you.
So, Hirva, my question is do you find any similarities between dystopian society and present society? As you mentioned, the characteristics of dystopian society. So, do you find any similarities between dystopian society and present time society?
It is in present time society, obviously, because sir is repeated that we are the government told us that tali bajao diya jalao. We all are doing that. We all are controlled by government.
Yes, Hirva. I'm asked the questions how to say about the government control in this 1984 novel.
Government is control because when the last scene, room number 101, the scene is played. The the one child is complained the big brother. Big brother is not there. It is the only idea. We all know that the child is complained, and as the child is complained, the third police is came and arrested that. So the government control in 1984 is that.
The final, the feedback is normally given, so I'm not giving any other further feedback. But the final answer that you have given, no, there where you say that sir says this or this says that, it should be your answer, not somebody is saying so you are saying that. That is very significant when you give your answer in that capacity, because people will make fun of that way of giving answers. You have to have your own answers. Are you convinced with that idea or not? Then you give the answer there. Okay, so we end this session with this, and wish you all the best for tomorrow. But see that you stick to the time frame. 7 to 8 minutes are given to you to read your presentation, and 2 to 3 minutes for question and answer. So don't read unnecessary long presentations. Those who are making very long presentations, be careful that you stick to the time, because yesterday also it was around 7 o'clock. Today also we don't know how long it will go till late evening. Okay, wish you all the best for tomorrow's presentation.